My girlfriend hid a deadly lie on her old phone. We had been together for 4 years when I first noticed a shift. Lena wasn't the kind of woman who played games. Or at least, she never used to be. When we first met, she was blunt, raw, and refreshingly honest. I was a quiet guy, the kind who listens more than talks, and she was magnetic, the type who could command a room without raising her voice. I worked in IT, and she was a freelance photographer. Creative, wild, impulsive. Opposites attract, right? We moved in together after a year. At first, every day felt like art, like we were painting a life together. Messy, beautiful, sometimes chaotic, but real. I love her more than I thought I could love anyone. I cooked, she cleaned. I was spreadsheets, she was sunsets. It worked, until one day it didn't. The change was slow at first, almost unnoticeable. She started spending more time outside the apartment. Client shoots, she'd say. More travel. More late edits. She'd always been a bit of a night owl, but now she was staying out past midnight regularly. Coming home drained. Disconnected. At first, I chalked it up to burnout. The photography world's brutal. Constant hustle. Unstable income. But it started to feel less like exhaustion and more like guilt. And then one morning I saw it. She was still asleep, her breathing slow, her hair spilling over the pillow like ink. I was getting ready for work when I noticed her old camera bag half-zipped on the floor. Her regular phone was on the nightstand, but in the bag, something caught my eye. A second phone. Sleek. Black. Locked. I froze. Lena wasn't tech-savvy. She barely remembered her Apple ID password. But this looked new. It had no case, no scratches. Just a cold, polished screen and a 6-digit lock. I didn't touch it. Not then. I zipped the bag closed and kissed her forehead before leaving for work, my chest tight, my mind spinning. All day, I told myself it was nothing. Maybe a backup for photography. Maybe she bought it for work. But she had never mentioned it, not once. And Lena wasn't good at keeping things to herself. If she bought a sandwich, she'd tell me the exact bread and how the guy at the deli messed up the mustard. But this phone? Silent. Hidden. That night, I brought it up gently. Hey, I saw another phone in your camera bag. What's that about? She didn't even look up from her laptop. Oh, that. She stretched, still typing. Old phone. I use it sometimes for BTS videos and time-lapse. Why? It sounded rehearsed. I nodded, trying to smile. Just curious. Never saw you use it. She gave me a look then. A long one, as if deciding something. Then she smiled, wide and natural. You're cute when you get nosy, she said, getting up and wrapping her arms around my neck. You don't have to worry. I promise. And for a moment, I believed her. But it kept eating at me. Because I knew Lena. Knew her habits, her rhythms, her tells. And this wasn't nothing. This was something. A week later, she forgot the phone on the kitchen counter. She was in the shower. And I broke. I picked it up. Try my birthday. Nothing. Her birthday. Nothing. Our anniversary. Nothing. But when I tried his birthday, Derek's, the code unlocked. Derek was a guy from her photography circle. They worked together on a few projects, and she always swore he was like a brother. But he was always around. Too much. He laughed a little too hard at her jokes. Stood a little too close. And once, when we were at a party, I caught him looking at her like he was starving. The phone opened to a storm. Messages. Dozens of them. Photos. Voicemails. And one message pinned at the top. I wish I was coming home to you tonight instead. My heart dropped. That night, I didn't sleep. I didn't confront her. I didn't scream. I lay there beside her in the dark, listening to her breathing, wondering how long I'd been sleeping next to a stranger. And that's when I knew. This wasn't a betrayal. This was war. The next morning, I watched her pour coffee like nothing had changed. Like she hadn't shattered something fragile inside me just 12 hours earlier. She hummed as she scrolled on her regular phone. The same phone she used to text me sweet nothings and send grocery lists. I stared at her, wondering how she could pretend. Wondering how I ever mistook the woman in front of me for someone incapable of this. I might be out late again, she said casually. I've got a shoot near the coast, then maybe drinks with the team. I nodded. My voice caught somewhere between my chest and throat. Sure. Sounds good. She kissed my cheek on her way out the door. I swear, if I didn't know what I knew, I'd think we were the happiest couple alive. The second phone was gone. Of course. I had taken photos of the messages, of the photos she'd sent him, of the time-stamped voicemails. I didn't know what I was going to do with them yet, but I knew I needed them, needed proof, because part of me still didn't believe it. Part of me still clung to the memory of the Lena who used to cry when we watched sad movies, who once spent her last $20 buying me a hardbound copy of a book I casually mentioned I loved as a kid. I spent that entire day in a fog. Everything at work felt distant, like I was walking underwater. I replayed every conversation, every night she said she was tired, every mysterious client dinner that ran too long. And all I could think about was why. Why Derek? Why lie? Why me? That night, she didn't come home until almost 2 a.m. I pretended to be asleep, and she tiptoed in, showered, and slid into bed next to me like she hadn't just burned our relationship to the ground. I kept thinking, what kind of person lies so cleanly, so completely? But I knew better than to confront her right then. She was too good, too slippery. I needed leverage, and I was going to get it. So I did something I never imagined myself doing. I started playing her game. The next few days, I became the perfect boyfriend. Sweet, relaxed, helpful. I made her favorite meals, picked her up little gifts, sent her flirty texts in the middle of the day. And the more perfect I became, the guiltier she looked. She started snapping over small things, snuck glances at her real phone even more often, smiled at me with tired eyes, like she was trying to match an emotion she no longer felt. But she couldn't fake it, not anymore. I knew what lay beneath. One night, I set up an audio recorder under the couch. She was on a video call in the bedroom, door cracked, laughing softly. I couldn't hear everything, but I heard enough. Phrases like, I miss your skin. He has no idea. Soon, baby. Soon. My stomach churned. My hands shook. The next day, I started gathering more. I went to her studio downtown and installed a tiny cam in the corner. I printed out some of the messages. I recorded every call she made when she thought I wasn't around. And what I uncovered over the next week turned my pain into something else. Not sorrow, not confusion, but fire. Because this wasn't just some fling. It wasn't meaningless. It was planned. They were laughing at me behind my back, making arrangements, talking about moving in together. She had told Derek that she was just waiting for the right time to tell me, that I was too fragile to handle the truth, that I was safe but boring. They were planning my exit like I was a damn inconvenience. And that was the moment I stopped being the victim. If they wanted to ruin my life, fine, but I was going to burn theirs down first. The plan came together slowly, piece by piece, fueled by sleepless nights and a kind of focus I didn't know I was capable of. I wasn't interested in some petty revenge. I wasn't going to key her car or post the screenshots online. No, I wanted something that would last. Something she'd feel every time she looked at herself, every time she tried to move on. Lena loved her career more than anything. Photography was her identity, her brand, her passion, her pride. She had been working for years to land a long-term campaign deal with a big outdoor clothing brand, Everwild. She talked about it endlessly. This was supposed to be her breakthrough. The I made it moment she kept saying was around the corner. So I did what I had to do. I reached out to one of the execs at Everwild. It took me a week to find the right contact. I used a fake name, created a burner email, told them I was a concerned industry professional who wanted to warn them about working with someone involved in unethical practices. I attached screenshots of Lena's messages, timestamps showing her trashing the company in private chats. Their brand is so bland, but it's good money. And even a few photos she'd sent Derek that were taken in the studio. Photos where Everwild products were clearly visible in the background during moments that were definitely not professional. I never got a response. But 1 week later, Lena came home in a rage, threw her keys across the room, slammed the fridge shut. She didn't say anything at first, just paced back and forth, her breathing shallow. Then she blurted, I lost the Everwild contract. I blinked. What? They pulled out, said they reevaluated my suitability for the brand. What the hell does that mean? I tried to look surprised, concerned. I even walked over and put a hand on her shoulder. I'm so sorry, Lena. That's awful. She looked at me, searching for something. Maybe comfort, maybe guilt. But I gave her none of it. Instead, I fed her silence. Let it grow. Over the next few days, I watched her unravel. Her mood spiraled. She barely touched her camera. Her posts on social media got erratic. Angry captions, cryptic photos. I knew Derek was still in the picture, but even he seemed more distant in their messages. He started replying slower, asking if maybe they should take a step back while she figures things out. And that's when I decided it was time for the final act. One Saturday evening, I asked if we could go for a drive. I just want to talk, I said. Clear the air. She agreed, reluctantly. I think she was hoping for some confession. That I'd cry and beg her to choose me. That I'd make her feel like the one being torn between two men. Instead, I drove us up to a small lake about an hour outside the city. It was quiet. No signal. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the trees. It was the kind of place where, once, we might have had a picnic. Now it felt like a grave. We sat on a bench by the water, the silence stretching between us. She was the first to speak. I've been feeling lost, she said, her voice cracking slightly. I don't know what's happening to me. I didn't respond. She kept going. I know something's wrong. Between us. I can feel it. But she paused. I don't know if it's too late. I looked her dead in the eyes. It is. She blinked. What? I pulled out a small envelope from my coat. Handed it to her. She opened it. Inside were printed screenshots. Voicemails. Photos. All the evidence I'd gathered over the past month. And on top of it all, a note I had typed myself. You didn't just cheat on me. You lied to someone who would have gone to war for you. Congratulations. You're finally free. But so am I. She went pale. You went through my phone, she whispered. I stood. You hit a second one. You weren't exactly subtle. Her lips trembled. This is sick. You ruined my career. No, you did. I just made sure people saw who you really are. I walked back to the car, leaving her alone on that bench. When we got home, I already had my bags packed. I moved out the next morning. I didn't block her, didn't scream, didn't give her the satisfaction of a scene. I just left, and I made sure that every echo of me reminded her of what she'd thrown away. The silence that followed was almost deafening. No angry texts, no desperate calls. For 3 days, I heard nothing from Lena, and I didn't reach out either. I buried myself in work, in music, in anything that didn't look or sound like her. But by day 4, she cracked. At 2:17 a.m., my phone buzzed. Lena, you don't get to destroy me and walk away like that. I stared at the screen, emotionless. Then another. Lena, you have no idea what you've done. Oh, I knew. I knew exactly what I'd done, and I didn't feel an ounce of guilt. Still, I didn't respond. Let her sit in it. Let the rage marinate into regret. Over the next week, I got message after message, some pathetic and desperate. Can we please just talk? Others venomous. You're a manipulative psycho. I hope you're right. Typical cheater cycle. Blame, then beg. But what she didn't know was that I'd already moved on. Not to someone else. No, I was nowhere near ready for that. But I moved on from the version of myself who ever needed her. In fact, I started piecing myself back together in the very apartment she had poisoned, slowly reclaiming each space. I painted the walls, replaced the sheets, tossed out the dishes we picked together, and bought new ones I actually liked. Every change felt like scraping her off my skin. But the fallout didn't end with us. A mutual friend, Sophie, reached out. She had always liked me more than Lena, though she tried to stay neutral. But the second Lena posted a cryptic Instagram story about being betrayed by someone close, Sophie called me. What the hell is going on? I told her everything. And Sophie didn't hold back. You're kidding. Derek? Derek the creep? She used to call him her creative parasite behind his back. She did. Oh yeah. She said he was desperate for attention, that he kept trying to get her alone. I thought she hated him. So much for like a brother. Sophie ended up cutting ties with Lena completely after she saw the screenshots. Apparently, she wasn't the only one. Lena's inner circle started crumbling. Friends pulled back. Collaborators bailed. Her name started disappearing from social credits in photography magazines. Even a local art community, small and gossipy, began whispering. She'd burned too many bridges. And then the final blow came. Derek posted a long-winded Instagram caption one night about emotional manipulation and being used as a rebound. He didn't name names, but it was obvious. And it went semi-viral in their tiny industry. Everyone connected the dots. Lena's reputation? Torched. I didn't celebrate. Not outwardly. But inside? Inside, I felt peace for the first time in months. And yet, because life loves a twist, I ran into her 2 months later. At a coffee shop. I saw her before she saw me. She looked tired. Thinner. Eyes sunken. She had on the same coat I bought her last winter. The one she said made her feel invincible. She wasn't wearing it like that now. When our eyes met, she froze. "Hey," she said cautiously. I nodded. "Hey." A pause. "I guess you've heard everything." "Most of it." She let out a hollow laugh. "You're probably thrilled." I shrugged. "I'm not anything, Lena. Not anymore." She looked down, then whispered, "I miss you." And for a flicker of a second, the old her, the real Lena, surfaced. The one who used to dance barefoot in our living room. Who once cried during a dumb Pixar short. Who loved me with a fire that could have lasted forever if she hadn't poured water on it herself. But that Lena? She was long gone. "I don't miss who you became," I said softly. She didn't argue, just nodded. I wish I could take it all back. I stood there a second longer. Took one last good look at the ruins of what we were. Then said, "Some things you don't get to rewind." And I walked out. This time for good. Life moved on. Not immediately. Not easily. But steadily. The pain faded into a dull memory, like the ache from an old scar. Some mornings I still woke up expecting to hear her humming in the kitchen or see her socks on the floor. But those moments became fewer and further between. Instead, I started rediscovering things I'd let die when I was with Lena. I picked up my guitar again. The one collecting dust in the closet since our second year together. I started jogging every morning, rain or shine, something she always rolled her eyes at. "You're not running from your demons," she joked once. Turns out I kind of was, and it helped. I spent weekends exploring places I used to love. Forest trails, indie bookstores, cafes with bad coffee but live music. I even signed up for a weekend coding boot camp just to shake things up. At work, my performance went up. My boss noticed. I got a promotion within a few months, and for the first time in years, I had money left at the end of the month that I wasn't splitting between us. I was rebuilding, reinforcing, becoming someone I liked again. And then, 6 months after the break, she called. Not texted, not med. Called. I stared at the screen for a long time. Just her name, still saved in my contacts, still capable of pulling my pulse into a sprint. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the better of me. I picked up. "Hey," I said flat. There was a pause. "Hi," she breathed. Her voice sounded different, softer, less performative. "I know I'm the last person you want to hear from," she began. "You're not wrong." She exhaled. I wanted to say something. For real this time. Not to get you back. Not to make you feel bad. Just to say it. I didn't reply. I waited. "I messed up," she continued. "I know you know that. Everyone knows that. And I've spent every day since just trying to understand why. Why I blew up something so good. And I think I finally get it." Silence. "I was never ready for the kind of love you gave me," she said. "It was too stable. Too real. I thought I wanted chaos. Thought I needed someone who made my heart race. But I didn't realize you made my heart safe. And I didn't know how to live in peace." Another pause. "I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted to tell you that I see it now. What I had. What I destroyed. And I'm sorry. It wasn't the apology I had imagined. There were no tears. No begging. It was quiet. Honest. And for the first time, I felt something unexpected. Pity. Not anger. Not sadness. Just the kind of pity you feel for someone who's finally realized they were the villain in their own story. "I hope you find what you're looking for, Lena," I said gently. "Yeah," she whispered. "Me too." Click. That was the last time we spoke. No dramatic return. No second chance. Just closure. But that phone call triggered something in me. Not a desire to reopen old wounds, but a desire to finally write my story down. Not hers. Not our story. Mine. So I started journaling. Processing. I wrote out everything I'd been through, not to dwell, but to release. And then something strange happened. Other people started reaching out. Friends. co-workers, even a couple people online who'd read a few anonymous blog entries I posted. They said things like, "Your story, it's mine too. Thank you for saying what I never could. I didn't think anyone else felt this way." And that's when it hit me. Maybe the best revenge isn't silence. Maybe the best revenge is truth. I started writing more. Longer posts, deeper reflections. I stayed anonymous, but I was raw, vulnerable, and brutally honest. I wrote about betrayal, about gaslighting, about learning to trust yourself when the person you love is lying straight to your face. I wrote about the rage that eats at you in the shower at 3 a.m. I wrote about the guilt of not seeing the signs sooner. I wrote about healing, the slow, boring, beautiful process of rebuilding yourself one tiny, thankless step at a time. And to my surprise, it resonated. A few of my posts went viral on small Reddit communities. Then someone messaged me, "Have you ever thought about turning this into a book?" At first, I laughed it off. A book? But the idea kept whispering to me. Maybe this pain had a bigger purpose. Maybe what Lena tried to destroy in me was the very thing that could help someone else survive their own wreckage. So I started writing a manuscript. Nights and weekends. It wasn't polished. It wasn't pretty, but it was real. By the time I finished the first draft, nearly a year had passed since Lena's betrayal, and I was unrecognizable. Not just physically, though I'd lost weight, changed my style, even grew a bit of a beard, but emotionally. I was grounded now, steadier. I didn't flinch when I saw happy couples. Didn't spiral when I heard our old songs. And then, one day, out of nowhere, Derek messaged me. Yeah, Derek, the guy she left me for. The man whose birthday was the code to her second phone. The guy who got the version of her that was done pretending to love me. His message was short. "I know you probably hate me. I just wanted to say I was wrong about everything." I stared at the message for a long time. I hadn't thought about him in months. He had completely disappeared after the social fallout. Word around town was that he moved to Seattle, started working under a different alias, trying to rebuild his career too. I didn't reply, but curiosity got the better of me. I clicked his profile, and there it was, a post from 2 months ago, captioned, "Sometimes the grass is only greener because it's fake." It was a photo of a wilted plant on a fake lawn. Artistic, moody, the kind of cryptic stuff Lena used to post when she felt misunderstood. In the comments, someone asked, "Is this about her?" And he replied with a single word, "Yes." The poetic justice was delicious, because from what I could piece together, their perfect relationship had imploded barely 3 months in. He had wanted the fantasy. She had wanted the attention. But real life? Bills? Insecurities? Her volatility? He couldn't handle it. And she couldn't fake stability. They crashed fast. And here I was, still standing. In fact, not just standing, thriving. That book I started writing, it got picked up by a small indie publisher. The title? The Second Phone. When Love is a Lie You Didn't See Coming. I used a pen name, kept it anonymous. But the message hit home. Emails flooded in from readers across the country. Survivors of betrayal. Partners of narcissists. People who thought they were crazy for suspecting the very things I'd lived through. I wasn't just healing anymore. I was helping others heal too. And somehow, that was better than any revenge I could have imagined. Because Lena? She was forgotten. But my story? It would last. My stomach was a knot of nerves as I got home that evening. I had made it seem like any other day. "See you later, babe," I said casually before heading off to work. Except I didn't go to work. I parked a few blocks away and waited. I had to know the truth, no matter how much it might hurt. At 11:42 a.m., the door opened. Mia stepped out, looking beautiful and carefree in a sundress I had bought her just weeks ago. She got into a car that wasn't hers, a sleek gray BMW, and they drove off. I followed at a distance. Every twist of the road, every turn they made, I stuck with them like a shadow, heart pounding with dread. They pulled up to a nice restaurant downtown. She got out with a man in his mid-30s, tall, clean-cut, wearing a sharp blue blazer. He opened the door for her. She smiled at him the way she used to smile at me. They walked in together like a couple, like we didn't exist. I sat in my car for a good 10 minutes, trying not to scream. Then I got out. I didn't want to cause a scene, but I needed to really see what was going on. From the corner window of the restaurant, I had a clear view. They were seated close, laughing. His hand brushed hers across the table. I saw her reach for her purse, and then she pulled out the second phone, the one I had discovered in the bathroom drawer, and she showed him something on it. He smiled. She looked relaxed, happy, like she was living a double life and had finally found where she truly belonged. I stood there frozen, my world unraveling in slow motion. My ears were ringing and my vision blurred. I backed away before I could do something stupid. That night, she came home like nothing happened. Her hair still smelled like lavender. She curled up beside me on the couch and said, "I missed you today. Work was exhausting." I almost laughed. I looked at her and realized how good she was at lying. How easy it came to her now. I wanted to confront her, to yell, to ask how she could do this to me after everything we'd been through. But something stopped me. Revenge wasn't just about confrontation. It was about control, about letting them believe everything was fine until it wasn't. And so I smiled and kissed her forehead and said, "I miss you too," because I wasn't done yet. Not even close. I spent the next few days observing everything, her patterns, her texts, the way she held that second phone when she thought I wasn't watching. She had no idea I knew. No idea I had followed her. No idea I had seen her with him. But it wasn't just about infidelity anymore. It was about who I was living with. Mia didn't just lie. She crafted lies. With detail. With intention. She built a second life while looking me in the eyes each night and whispering, "I love you," like it meant something. And I had swallowed it all. So I played my part. I became the perfect boyfriend again. I made her coffee in the mornings. I cooked dinner twice that week. I even planned a weekend getaway to distract her. And she loved it, ate it up like she was back in control. But while she was relaxing, I was working. I found out the guy's name, Adam or Dot, a real estate broker from the city. Divorced. 2 kids. I went through her second phone one night while she showered and took screenshots of every message. There were photos, videos. "Can't wait to see you again, red heart," texts. She even sent him our dog's pictures. The most painful part? She had used the name Camille with him. She had another name, another identity. I wasn't dating Mia anymore. I was dating Camille, or whatever version of herself she sold to Adam. A fantasy, a mirage, a lie stacked on a lie. And that's when I decided. I wouldn't just walk away. I would reveal her. Not to Adam, not to her family, to herself. She thought she could live 2 lives and get away with it. But the person she was hiding from most was the one in the mirror. The moment came quietly, in the middle of a gray Thursday afternoon. Mia was at work, or so she said. I knew she was actually with Adam. But this time, I didn't care to follow or spy. I was done with shadows. I sat at the kitchen table, second phone in my hand. I called her on her regular phone. "Hey," she answered, voice light. "Camille," I said, my voice cold. There was a long silence, then a slow, steady inhale. "Who is this?" "It's me. Or rather, the version of you I've come to know best. The one who's been living 2 lies behind my back." Her voice trembled. "What do you want?" "To be honest." For once, I replied. She hung up. Minutes later, the front door clicked open. Mia was home, but it wasn't Mia in the eyes I saw. It was Camille. The mask had slipped. She sat across from me, silent. I placed a second phone between us. "I know everything," I said. "The messages, the lies, the other life you've been building." Her hands trembled. "You don't understand. It's not what you think." "It's exactly what I think," I said. "You lied to me every day. You made me believe in a future that wasn't real." Tears welled up in her eyes. "I'm sorry." I shook my head. "Sorry isn't enough." "I'm scared," she whispered. "I don't know who I am anymore." That moment broke something inside me, but it also healed a part one didn't know was still hurting. "I don't know who you are either," I said. "But I do know who I am now. And it's not someone who's going to be your secret anymore." She looked at me, a mixture of fear and regret. "I hope you find yourself, Mia," I said. "But you can't find me in your lies." And with that, I walked out. For the last time. Months later, I heard through a friend that Camille, had disappeared from the city. No forwarding address. No social media. Just gone. I didn't feel triumph. Not really. Instead, I felt free. Because I finally understood that the pain of betrayal is not in the losing. It's in the losing of who you thought you were with that person. But I found myself again, stronger, wiser, and ready to love without shadows. And as for the second phone, it was just a symbol of the lies we tell and the truths we have to face to heal. Sometimes the hardest truth is the only way forward.